Hey everybody, and welcome back to Split Couch Games. I'm Scott.
Uh,
That's Ben.
Hello.
We're doing another podcast. This is podcast number 11 of the official podcast series. I think it's like the 13th one that we've done, really,
Something like
if
that?
you include PAX and something else. Anyway,
Yeah.
E3 coverage. It was the E3 podcast.
Right.
But anyway, today we're gonna start by talking about the Gears of War 4 shotgun change that's coming in. I'm skeptical. Ben's completely okay with it.
Well,
The only reason why I'm skeptical is that I don't want anything to go wrong, and I've seen what happens when the shotgun is messed up in any way. Gears of War 2, when it first launched, if you try to blind fire it, it would automatically just shoot straight down at like a 90-degree angle.
mhm.
So I'm hesitant to just be like, yeah, this is a good change, because
Sure.
yeah.
And, like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be skeptical. Because, I mean, obviously, when it comes to major changes like that at all, you should be skeptical. And that goes for any game, just simply because there is
Yeah.
always the possibility for error and that kind of thing. But from what I've read slash what you've told me, it doesn't really sound like any sort of change that is going to be inherently bad. Like, it sounds...
So we should explain what the change is. For those who don't know,
yeah.
they're taking the shotgun, the Nasher shotgun, and so it fired basically from where your hands held the gun, and then spread out from there, and then so they're moving it to the front of the barrel where bullets would naturally come from, with the idea being that it will create much more visual consistency with your shots, because some people were complaining that when they shot point blank, a couple of the pellets were missing, or they didn't know that a couple of the pellets were missing, but they were saying, "Oh, I point blanked him and he ate the shot, and I only did 83% damage."
Yeah. Which, that has happened to me a couple of times.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened to everyone, and it doesn't feel good. But at the same time, I kind of, in the back of my mind, knew that was what was happening. I knew that I was missing my shots. I thought that maybe it would just like visually look like I was hitting my shots, and it might have been like a frame, like I was a frame too early on a turn or something
Sure,
like that.
sure. I mean, that's kind of what I assumed, too, because, video games.
Yeah. So I was actually kind of surprised that it wasn't coming from the barrel of the gun, but it all just like kind of makes sense now. So yeah, it's gonna be much more clear what's happening with your bullets, and that's good.
Yeah.
But it is going to change the feel of the gun for sure. Anyway, go ahead and continue with what you're saying.
I honestly don't quite fully remember what I was saying.
You're saying
Well,
changes large shall be take.
yeah, I mean, like, I feel like it is something that shouldn't be, like, kind of accepted, like, with open arms, but that's only simply because of the obvious, like, chance for error. Like, I don't think it really has anything to do with, like, whether or not it's a good change, because to me, it sounds like it's a good change.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, they're moving the essentially the starting point of the shot is being moved from the stock of the gun all the way up to the front of the barrel. And like, that's kind of where most people assume it comes from anyways. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think you would ever ask someone who plays video games, regardless of how much they may know about systems and everything like that. Like, where do the bullets come from? Oh, well, the front of the gun. Or some people might say, like, the player's face or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think you would ever hear someone say, oh, well, it comes from the stock of the gun. Because
Yeah.
that's a little weird, especially for a third-person game.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest thing that I'm worried about it impacting, and I don't play a whole lot of Gears, I mean,
Yeah.
I played for the first time in months the other night, and
Yeah.
I raffle stomped everybody, and it kind of made me wonder why I was ranked as a bronze 2 in TDM, but you know,
I think because you lost games with me at some point.
yeah,
Or didn't perform well in games with me because
that's because like you're all like, I'm fucking like Onyx 3 or whatever, and I'm like, that's cool, I'm not. Can we
yeah.
can we not? And then you're like, too bad. So we were getting paired up against people way above my skill level.
I mean, I think that no one really knows how the matchmaking system works in that game.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, we had an entire podcast about that last week, so
yeah, I just want to fill you in that, like, me and my friends who are all Onyx players, so me and two others got into a match, and we had two other Onyx players on our teams, and we got absolutely smashed by golds and silvers. Because I don't know.
I mean, it could be that whatever system they have up is very vulnerable to like intentionally losing games to drop rank.
Maybe there's no reason to do that though.
Sure there is. People do it all the time. They will intentionally drop like 2 or 3 placements below their actual rank just so they can have easy games.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's a whole different discussion.
Yeah, but
I
no.
don't even remember
When it comes to the shotgun, I feel like your worry isn't like, I'm not saying that it's not justified, but I feel like you don't have as much to worry about as what you think, because I feel like the changes are going to make the shotgun a little more, like responsive and crisp, consistent, all that kind of stuff. Not that it wasn't before, but the biggest thing that I'm worried about is that, like, when you're turning, that does make it so that, like, because it's coming out of the barrel of the gun versus the stock, it's a much wider arc, so you could potentially miss snapshots way more often, at least until you get used to it again.
Yeah, there's going to be... So there's a shot that I like to do where I run out. Like, so if I'm on opposite covers from someone on the same cover, but need to go around to shoot them, I run out, shift to the right just a bit, and then turn all the way to the left to kill them.
Yeah,
in one shot. That might be affected, I think, but because they're also experiencing the same arc change, it shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah,
but it's definitely going to be something that I have to get used to for sure.
Yeah, like I think it'll mainly just simply be an adjustment of timing more than anything. And I mean, I know that that's like kind of a core pillar of Gears gameplay is timing and everything, but I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a change that will kind of overall improve the experience for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the impact it'll have on people like you who have essentially gotten used to it is going to be minimal at best.
Yeah. There's one other thing outside of just how the shotgun plays. They were talking about the reason why it was the way it was is to avoid being able to shoot through walls and similar things. So I'm curious what safeguards they put in against that this time around, and why those weren't used before.
Nothing.
You can just do it. It's fine. And I'm also curious if they added it to the other weapons, because I would assume that they all work similarly.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question was, do all the weapons shoot from the stock, or was it just the shotgun? I kind of assumed it was just the shotgun because of, like, the spread and everything, but...
I mean, that's probably all that really matters, but there is a couple of instances where, even in Gears 4, it's less prominent in Gears 4, but there's still a couple spots where if you set yourself up in the right place, you can shoot through a wall.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious what they've done to the Gnasher to make that not happen, and also there's a couple of shots that if you're on a cover and you look over it's hard to describe, but if you look over your shoulder, so that your body is facing the opposite way you're shooting,
Yeah.
you can shoot over the cover and do damage, and it's especially effective if you're above them. And I'm curious if that's going to make that stronger because it's going to be coming from the point of your gun, or if it's going to make it weaker because maybe your gun's facing into the cover that you're looking over. And that's a very big change.
Yeah.
One way or the other, because having that is important for a lot of fights.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know, like it's a wider reaching change than just
Yeah.
shooting a gun.
Yeah. I didn't really think about all of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so there's some things that I'm worried about there. Like that, it's just there's a underlying level of worry. Like I'm more or less I'm excited for this because I think it's important that Gears has always been a game where the systems are kind of hidden from new players and it's hard to pick up and learn.
yeah.
So I'm excited that the next time someone picks up a shotgun, it's going to work as they expect.
Yeah.
But going further, there's going to be some changes that are going to happen.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. Just a little concerned.
Yeah. When does it go live? Do you know?
I'm guessing Tuesday. They usually try to put out the monthly update the first Tuesday of the month,
Gotcha.
or the second Tuesday if the first Tuesday is the first or whatever.
They only do updates once a month?
Yeah,
Okay.
which is good for an Xbox game, really.
Yeah.
Because
I just
it basically drops with the maps. So the maps are going to be presumably announced and released on Tuesday the 7th. And the update will come with it, and then you'll download all those together. And yeah.
Gotcha.
So you can definitely expect a video from me on that. I'll do something talking about the changes and how the shotgun feels and how you guys can get used to it or what have you. But anyway, so it also like it's mostly because I'm so close to the game, but like this does feel like a major change, and I was just curious, have you played a game where such a change has been made? Like League of Legends has made drastic changes, but those usually happen mid-season.
Yeah.
Because the competitive season for Gears of War is still happening. In fact, there's a major tournament at the end of the month that this is going to impact, which those guys really need to know how to use the weapon.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I
make
mean,
sure the weapon works.
Overwatch patches its game all the time. I mean, in the middle of Season 3 is when Hook 2.0 dropped for Roadhog.
That's true.
So, and I mean, they've continued to tweak it. They just dropped some major Bastion changes. To the point where it's like he can survive ults, basically. So,
yeah. I mean, it's not so much that that changes don't happen. I'm fine with that. Like you said, weapon tuning changes, and League has champion changes on that all the time.
Yeah.
They usually the way that works is the competitive players are a patch behind, so they play the tournament, like they play their games on the weekends on the patch that they practice on, so that makes, so they're not like, oh, I don't know what's going on in this patch.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, it's one of those it's new it's a little bit newer for games to be updating like that on the fly, and I think it's good. But it's just interesting that just standard shooters, I don't think I've seen that happen. Like when there's balancing changes that need to happen because different characters have different abilities. Like Bastion needed to be changed because he was considered weak, so they buffed him.
I mean, he wasn't really considered weak. He was just underused more than anything. Because I mean, he could still, even before the changes, he could still dish out the most damage out of any character in the game. It's just that he was extraordinarily vulnerable when he was in his turret mode.
Yeah.
And these changes kind of help him survive a little better. So it's like,
I guess we should also explain what the changes are.
yeah, well, I mean, I guess if you want, basically his repair skill, like his self-healing skill, is now something that can happen essentially no matter what. Like, I think if you're like frozen by May or hacked by Sombra or something like that, like you
Stunned by McCree.
yeah, you know, you still can't use it then, unless you're boosted by Anna's ultimate, but that's a different conversation. But it can happen pretty much no matter what, and like even if you're getting shot, you can still actively repair yourself. It's just that it's now on like a cooldown bar similar to Diva's defense matrix. So it essentially allows him to heal while he's moving, while he's getting shot, all this kind of stuff. So it's really actually super helpful. But he was also given a 25%, or maybe it was 30. I can't remember, but it's changing soon because it's a little too strong. But it was like a 25% damage reduction buff when he's in his turret mode. So, like, yeah, if, you know, you have a gun that does 100 damage, when he's in his turret mode, it now only does 75. Which, that part, I think, is important that they keep it in. Because, like, the main thing that made him pretty unusable before was that, like, a Widowmaker or a Hanzo would be able to get off the 2 shots that they needed before he would be able to even react to the first one and unturret mode and get out of the way. So
yeah, I would almost rather see, like, obviously this is a lot more work, but I'd almost rather see him have some sort of like rotating shield or something.
He actually did have a shield in the beta, and it was way too powerful. Like, the character originally could only like turn like it was less than 180 degrees, I think. So like he couldn't do a full 360, but he had a shield in front of him. So like the idea was, get behind him, but then people would just camp in corners.
Yeah.
And
well, I was just thinking something like that was spinning around. It was maybe takes up like a fifth of his like this circle.
Sure.
And it just like goes around. It'd be kind of a cool interaction, possibly.
Yeah.
Probably not that cool.
Yeah, but I mean,
that would be interesting.
At that point, it's just kind of like an extra thing to worry about if, because like on Oasis, one of the strategies that a lot of people like to use is like on that like first ledge that you have defending the first point. A lot of people will like to put a Bastion up there with a Reinhardt putting his shield in front of him. So, you know, if you had a rotating shield or anything like that, it would just be an extra shield to go along the back. So if you happen to get behind him and flank him, you know, you now have to worry about timing that.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's not a huge deal. It's just one of those things where if I'm a new player going through and trying to learn how to play Overwatch, then it's like, oh, this gun does this much damage, but for whatever reason against this guy, it's not doing damage. It can, similar to the shotgun, kind of might feel bad. Obviously, it's probably not.
Well, I mean,
big a deal because people don't.
There's a lot of different
stuff.
factors when it comes to gun damage and everything. Like, you can't really.
Sure.
You can if you really know the systems, but you shouldn't really depend on essentially counting your bullets or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because if a character has armor, that will automatically do reduced damage, and obviously shields regenerate and all that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, I'm not. Like, I'm not saying that is a problem. I'm just thinking out loud as to why, like, I would rather have something more visual.
Sure.
As an option.
But I mean.
But it's not.
Yeah, there's no real easy way, because I mean the rotating shield is just simply, okay, well now the Widowmaker just has to wait until it passes in front and then shoot twice. So
adding more cool interactions would be preferable. I don't know, but like, it obviously, again, it's not going to really change anything.
Yeah,
your camera just zoomed out so far.
Yeah, I saw that. It's because I was doing this, so it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I kind of get what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not like trying to like be like, oh man, this was a bad change.
Yeah.
I'm just
But I mean,
thinking out loud.
yeah, but I feel like when it comes to Overwatch and maybe even potentially other, like MOBA style games, the more unique interactions comes from adding in new characters.
That's a subtle segue.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's a very important thing because
Yeah, it's
the new
fine.
character has new character is a anchor tank type of character. They have a projectile based weapon that, as far as I could tell, just like from watching gameplay, it shoots like little miniature versions of like Zenyatta's balls. So like it's still projectile based. It's not like raycast or anything. And so like you may have to like lead your targets and that kind of thing just a little bit, but she has a 200 round magazine, and she has a deployable shield that is similar to Reinhardt's. It's not as strong as Reinhardt's, but it's still a shield that can block certain ults and that kind of thing. And her secondary, or her two abilities, one is called Fortification, or something like that, and it basically makes it so that she receives reduced damage and also is essentially immune to any sort of crowd control abilities. So
That's useful.
yeah, like Reinhardt's ultimate won't knock her down. If Reinhardt charges her, she won't get knocked down. If like Mei tries to freeze her with her primary fire while that ability is active, it won't do anything. So like anything that could potentially impede her movement in any way is now negated if that ability is active. And I think it only lasts like 5 seconds or something like that, which is
Yeah,
like,
but that's a long time though.
yeah, but I mean it's long enough to essentially get out of the way of like Mei's ult or something like that. So
Yeah. And Zarya's ult.
yeah. But no, and then her other ability is kind of similar to Zarya's ult, in the sense that like you shoot out this orb and then you can like manually detonate it, and if anything is within its radius when you detonate it, it pulls those enemies to that location. So like if someone runs around a corner and you're like, no, get back here, you can just shoot that off and it pulls them back
Okay,
around.
so that's. Did you say Zarya or Zenyatta?
Zarya.
Okay. For some reason, I heard Zenyatta, and I was like, "That sounds like Zarya." And I'm like, "Well, they both sound similar, so I probably messed that up." All right. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and her ult
can
is
get
like
behind
a group damage boost, basically. As long as it has line of sight on you. It's like a little thing that you set down on the ground, and it will essentially give you like a mercy damage boost of like 50%, as long as that object has line of sight on you. And as far as I can tell, there's no range on it. So, and I mean, obviously, like this character, it's not live yet. I think maybe she'll be live in like a week or two.
Yeah.
But right now she's just on the PC PTR, so, which is public test realm for those that don't know.
Yeah. 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 She sounds kind of. I feel like she fits in a really nice slot that Overwatch is missing with that kind of Uber tank. Because I kind of feel that tanks aren't really a thing in Overwatch.
They are, but
Like, at
like
least
right
traditional
now,
tanks?
well, yeah, like the tanks in Overwatch are very, 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 very situational. Like you have
Yeah.
Winston and Diva that are pretty much like they're dive comp tanks. They're meant to kind of get in,
Yeah.
get out, like do a little bit of damage and distracting and that kind of thing, while the rest of the team does their push.
Yeah.
And then you have Roadhog, who's more of like a flanking tank. Like he's would be best kind of like going in sort of like the off routes, getting some picks, that kind of thing. And then Zarya kind of sits like between Roadhog and Reinhardt, where it's like she's kind of like a main DPS, but she doesn't exactly want to be like a frontline tank because
Yeah.
she can't absorb all that damage. And then there's Reinhardt, who is literally, he's basically a mandatory pick if you ever want to win. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can win without him. I've done it plenty of times myself, but like, as far
But
as
he's a stable pick.
yeah, he's a good solid pick because a lot of the maps have chokes on them that like you need his shield in order to actually get some DPS down on the enemy team. So,
Which I think is the idea, like adding another tank similar to him, because
yeah,
he does fill that tank role much, or like that much more traditional tank role, but having only one champion that does that
yeah,
is not
it's not great.
fun.
Yeah,
Not fun.
and the community's been talking about that for a while, about how, you know, like we need essentially a Reinhardt replacement. And right now, like the community is kind of like saying that like this isn't really a Reinhardt replacement. Like it would still be good to have Reinhardt on your team, but if you were running like a 2-2-2 comp like this, like you would almost absolutely want your second tank to be Orisa at this point.
Yeah. And I can see some situations where, depending on the game type, probably. I feel like Reinhardt's going to be better with payload objectives, and what's her name again?
Orisa.
Orisa is going to be more of a point control because she can place her shield.
Yeah.
That's just kind of general assumptions
Yeah.
being made.
I mean, maybe. It just kind of depends. Because, I mean, I obviously haven't played her or anything, and I don't know if her deployable shield will be able to sit on top of the payload. Because if it can, then she would probably be best for payload, because you realistically only, most of the time, will be looking in the one direction.
Yeah.
Whereas with point control, you're going to need the versatility of having Reinhardt's shield be able to move. But
wait, is her shield not a full bubble, or?
no, it's not a bubble. It's almost the size of Reinhardt's, except it kind of like starts curving, so it's kind of like an arched shield.
Okay, I kind of assumed that it was similar to Winston's, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not the exact same as Winston's. It's like
Okay.
It's like
Okay, so she'll be able to help with pushing as well.
Yeah.
Almost better because she'll be able to shoot from behind the shield.
Yeah. And
with her paintball gun.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like it is.
Yeah, a paintball like minigun. It has like 4 barrels and goes full auto. So, but no, I don't know. I mean, it'll definitely be interesting to start seeing her, and I'm excited about playing that character because, like, I've never really felt confident with a tank outside of Zarya, because
Zarya is super fun.
I know, right? Because like I'm mainly like a DPS character, and like I'm okay with Roadhog, I'm okay with D.Va, I'm terrible with Winston, even though I jumped into a quick match and got play of the game that one time.
Yeah, that was really fun. I'm like, you were like, Scott, what champion should I play? And I'm like, Winston, and you're like, oh, I don't know how to play Winston. Fucking play.
Yeah, and then I get play of the game.
I still don't think that was even your best play.
It really wasn't, but it was the closest to the end, and I think it's part of what pushed us to the finish. So
it pushed you to the finish, and like it was your ultimate, so I think you dealt more damage. I don't know. It wasn't your best play.
No,
but you got it.
It definitely wasn't. But no, Orisa, I think, is going to be like a nice kind of middle ground between Reinhardt and Zarya, where it's like she can, like, she's still like a major help to her team, but she can also deal a decent bit of damage. So
yeah. Okay, we have 50 seconds left.
All right.
On 30. So I do want to end, but really quick. Pop quiz. If you could add one champion with like one ability, what would it be? Go.
One champion with one ability.
Or one hero.
I have no idea, because they've already done my go-to thoughts of like teleportation and shit like that. So, like if Sombra wasn't a thing, I would have been like invisibility and teleportation for like a backline kind of, you know, but they've already done that. I don't know. What were you thinking?
I'm thinking that they're gonna add some sort of cloning champion that you can like send out a clone of yourself. I think that's probably in the works. Whether that's just a like just a standard like hologram, not like that doesn't actually do anything, or it is something that can actually impact
So
and do damage or something.
are you talking like Halo kind of hologram, or are you talking like like hologram slash cloning, or are you talking more like spies from TF2, where you can like disguise as the enemy and then
More like the Halo thing, but more interactive, I guess. There's a couple of champions in League. There's LeBlanc and Shaco where they make clones, and you can kind of control them a little bit and try to fake people out thinking that the clones are you and whatnot.
interesting.
So something like that I would like to see.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool.
I think it would be interesting to see them take on the task of having like almost like a dedicated hero that does more like kind of damage over time, sort of like what Ana does, but like
Sure.
a more like steady flow, as opposed to like it does like 80 damage across 1.5 seconds.
Sure. Some with like sort of more splash, like almost poison, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you splash some poison out there, and
Yeah,
yeah, there's a champion that does that in League.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
League has been around for years.
Yeah, I
Overwatch
know.
hasn't even hit the 1 year mark. Cut it some slack.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of the champions or a lot of the heroes in Overwatch share a lot of similarities with League, so I think that you can definitely safely look at those two games and be like, Overwatch is probably going to get something like that soon.
Yeah, I mean the only
Through no like
the only
not that it's a bad thing.
Yeah, the only reason I don't think a champion with any sort of cloning will work is just simply because like you don't have the advantage of like that top down kind of camera
Yeah.
perspective, so it would be much harder to convincingly move them around.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not saying that like it's going to be easy or if it's going to be as I don't know. That's kind of what I would like, and I think Overwatch is talent. The Overwatch team is talented enough to make a solid attempt at it.
Sure.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to finish off with, and that's going to be it for this podcast.
All right.
Thank you guys for joining us. Let us know in the comments what you would like us to talk about next time. And we'll see you guys next time on Split Couch Games.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, they should do like a combo kind of thing where instead of like creating holograms of yourself, you can essentially like create a hologram of like one of your teammates around you, so that you could be like, is he the real Roadhog or am I? You don't know.